The city lights on the alien planet Virella never slept. Tall glass towers touched the clouds, glowing in blue and gold, every night. Ships from far-off worlds landed in the capital, and every night the House of Lux opened its golden doors. It was a place where powerful men bought beauty for one night. But tonight, something different was going to happen. Kale stood outside the House of Lux, staring at the entrance. He was a human, tall and quiet. Dressed in a simple dark coat. Others wore expensive robes and jeweled rings, but Kale didn't care how he looked. He was here for her. He had seen her once 2 weeks ago, on a screen inside a shop. She had silver eyes and soft gray skin. Her hair was like flowing night, and her expression was empty. Like she had stopped dreaming long ago, but in that moment, something inside Kale woke up. He had to find her. Tonight, she was being auctioned for the first time in months. She was known only as Lot 47. Kale didn't even know her name. But he had sold everything he owned to be here, his ship, his tech gear, even his home pass, all for one night, inside. The House of Lux smelled of perfume and strange flowers. Alien music played softly, and beautiful women stood behind glass walls. Some smiled, some waved, but Kale walked past them, ignoring the whispers and stares. He reached the bidding hall, and his heart began to race. The room was filled with rich aliens and humans, all watching the stage. One by one, girls were brought out and sold. Some were eager, trained to please. Others were quiet, afraid. Kale waited, silent, as Lot 44, 45, and 46 were sold. Then the lights dimmed, and now the announcer said, "Lot 47, the rare jewel of Virella." She stepped onto the stage, and the room fell silent. She didn't smile, didn't look at anyone. She just stood there, tall, graceful, but hollow. Kale felt his chest tighten. The bidding started high. Voices shouted numbers, but Kale waited, letting them fight. Then, when the final voice screamed, 30,000 credits, Kale raised his hand. 50,000, he said calmly. Everyone turned to look at him. A few laughed. A few stared in shock. The announcer blinked, then nodded slowly. "No further bids," he said. "Lot 47 goes to the human." She was taken away through a golden hallway, and Kale was told to wait. Minutes later, a door opened. "Tay," and a worker said, "She's ready." Kale walked inside the private room. It was soft and warm, with pillows, soft lights, and food. She stood in the corner, still wearing the same white robe from the stage. Her eyes met his. She didn't speak. Kale sat on the floor, not the couch, and said, "I won't touch you." Her eyes blinked, confused. "I just want to talk," he added. Still, she said nothing. He placed the food tray near her, but she didn't move. Instead, she asked quietly, "Why did you buy me?" Her voice was soft but clear. Kale looked at her, his voice low. "Because when I saw you, I felt something." She turned away, hugging herself. "You shouldn't," she whispered. "I'm not." "Worth anything?" Kale's jaw clenched. "Who told you that?" he asked. She gave a bitter smile. "Everyone." He didn't ask her for her name or her story. Instead, he talked about Earth, about sunsets and oceans, about what freedom felt like. At first, she just listened, silent and still. But after an hour, she sat on the floor beside him. Then, after 2, she ate a little food. Finally, she spoke again. "They told me I belonged to the syndicate." Kale nodded slowly. "They said I'm lucky to be alive." She added, "You are alive," Kale said gently, "and that's not luck. That's strength." She looked at him for a long time, her silver eyes full of something he hadn't seen before, hope. She said, "I don't have a name." Kale smiled softly. "Then I'll call you what you are." "What's that?" she asked. He answered, "Free." She looked down, then whispered, "Not yet." that night. They didn't share a bed. They shared silence, space, and something more powerful: trust. Kale knew one night would never be enough. He didn't want her body. He wanted her life, and he was ready to give up everything to make it hers. Asterisk, the morning light on Virella was always soft. But inside the House of Lux, there were no windows. Time stood still. Kale sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the door. He hadn't touched her, hadn't even held her hand, and yet, something between them had changed. She sat on the floor. Her knees pulled close to her chest. She wore the same robe from last night. Untouched, her silver eyes were open, but distant. Kale handed her a warm cup, saying nothing. She took it without a word. He wanted to ask her name again, but she had none. She didn't even remember if she'd ever had one. Did someone ever call you anything else? He asked softly. She shook her head. Only a number, 47. Kale winced. She was treated like a product, not a person, like something to own, use, and forget. I can't keep calling you that, he said. You deserve better. She looked at him slowly, unsure whether to believe him or not. He leaned back against the wall, trying to calm the storm inside him. She needed peace, not more fire. But even now, she looked like a ghost half alive, barely holding on. Why did you come here? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. To see you, Kale replied. She frowned. No, I mean really. He looked at her, eyes serious. To take you away from this. Her hands trembled. Don't say that, she whispered. Don't give me dreams I can't have. You can have them. Kale said, if you want out, I'll help you. You don't even know me, she said. You just saw my face on a screen. I didn't fall for your face, Kale said. I saw your eyes. Okay. She looked at him sharply, then turned away. I'm broken, she muttered. They broke me a long time ago. Then let's start fixing it, Kale said gently, piece by piece. She stared at the floor, confused, scared. No one had ever said these things to her before. She had been bought and sold for years, always quiet, always obedient. But this human didn't want her like the others. He didn't even touch her. He just saw her. Why would you risk everything for me? She asked suddenly. I don't even know how to live outside this place. I don't want to live without you, Kale said. That's why. Her lips trembled. And for the first time, a tear rolled down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away, embarrassed. I'm not crying for you, she said. Almost angry. I know, Kale said, smiling. You're crying for yourself, and that's good. Suddenly, the room's wall chimed. A voice came through the speaker, cold and robotic. Your session is over. Please prepare the unit for return. Her body stiffened. She stood quickly, like a machine, trained to obey. Kale stood too. Stepping in front of her, no, he said, you're not going back. You can't stop them, she said, panic rising. You don't understand how this works. I understand enough, Kale said. I'll find a way. Her voice turned sharp. They own me, Kale. The syndicate. They don't care what you paid. If you take me, they'll kill you. He didn't flinch. Then they'll have to catch me first, he said. But I'm not leaving you behind. The door opened, and 2 armored guards stepped in. She froze in place, her eyes dull again. The taller guard said, Time's up, human. Kale looked at her. One last time. I'll come back, he promised. Don't give up. She stared at him as the guards pulled her away. And this time, she didn't look like a ghost. There was fire in her eyes, small but growing. The door closed behind her. Kale stood alone, heart pounding. He knew what he had to do. He couldn't buy her freedom with money. He'd have to steal it. And that meant diving into the shadows of Virella, into the syndicate's world, into danger and death. But she was worth it. Even if she didn't know her name, he did. He would give her a name. a future, and a life, even if it cost him his own. Cale didn't sleep that night. He walked through the back alleys of Virella's lower levels, where the real city lived, where law meant nothing and silence bought survival. He kept his hood low and his voice quieter. Everyone said the same. Thing don't cross the syndicate, but Cale wasn't looking for safety. He was looking for a way to take back the girl with silver eyes, the girl who never had a name but had started to believe again. He couldn't forget the fire that returned to her eyes as the guards dragged her away. He had to act fast. His first stop was the black market dockyards. Ships came and went without any questions asked. Cargo, weapons, slaves, all passed through. Here, if there was a way to smuggle someone out, Tit would be here. He found a man named Breck, an old smuggler with cybernetic arms and 3 glowing eyes. Breck sat in a corner booth, sipping some purple drink. Cale sat down without invitation. "I need someone extracted," Cale said. "Direct and firm." Breck chuckled. "People or things?" "She's not a thing," Cale snapped. Breck grinned. "Then it's going to cost more." Cale leaned in. "She's owned by the House of Lux. Under the Velen Syndicate." Breck froze, drink halfway to his lips. Then he put the cup down. Slowly. "You trying to get killed, human?" He whispered. "No one steals from the Velen Syndicate. Not even other crime lords. I'm not stealing." Cale said, "I'm freeing her." "Same thing in their eyes," Breck muttered. "But you've got guts." He stared at Cale for a long moment, then sighed. "There's one way," Breck said. "But it's crazy." Cale waited. "There's a transport window 2 nights from now," Breck continued. "A maintenance ship exits the city wall at dusk. Securities. Blind for 30 seconds. I'll need to sneak her out before that," Cale said. "You'll need a keycard to unlock the holding cells," Breck added, "and those are kept on the top floor." Near the auction vault, Cale knew what that meant. He would need to go back into the House of Lux. Not as a buyer but as a thief. "How much for your help?" Cale asked. Breck looked him over. "You already sold everything, didn't you?" Cale nodded. "Then pay with blood," Breck said, handing him a blade. "You'll need this more than credits." That night, Cale broke into a closed holo club and used its systems to trace the House of Lux security codes. He stayed hidden for hours, stealing just enough data to fake a pass. Then he crafted a fake ID chip and injected it into his arm. Pain shot through him, but he didn't stop. He knew where she was being kept, a lower holding cell labeled Unit 47. She would be drugged, monitored, controlled, but maybe she still had enough fight left to run. 2 nights later, Cale stood outside the House of Lux again. This time, he wasn't there for pleasure. He wore a stolen suit, cleaner now. But his heart beat louder than any guard's footsteps. He passed through the entry with the fake Chipno alarms. Good inside, the place looked the same, but now he could feel the weight of its walls. They weren't made of gold, they were made of chains. He moved fast, staying close to the shadows. At the elevator, he slid his pass axe. Granted, he made it to the upper floor. To the vault there, behind glass, was the locker of keys. One for every unit in the house. He found Hearse 47 and grabbed it. Alarms didn't go off, but he knew his time was short. He rushed down the back corridors toward the lower cells. Every second, he expected to hear boots behind him, but no one came. He found her cell and opened it. She sat inside, half-dazed, her skin pale. "Irina," Cale whispered, using the name he gave her. Her eyes blinked slowly. "Cale?" she asked, confused. He rushed to her, kneeling beside her. "I'm getting you out," he said. "No more walls, no more chains." She tried to stand, but stumbled. He caught her, holding her close. "You came back," she whispered. "I told you I would," he said. But before they could move, a loud voice echoed through the hallway. "Security breach in Sector C." Kale's heart raced. He grabbed her hand. "Run," he said. "Don't stop." She nodded, weak but determined. Together, they ran into the dark passage, chased by shadows. Behind them, alarms screamed. Doors slammed. Guards shouted. But Kale didn't look back. He had her. And that was all that mattered. If they made it to Breck's ship, they had a chance. If not, he'd still die trying. Because this time, it wasn't just a rescue. It was a promise. She wasn't a number anymore. She was his. Not to own, but to protect. The jungle outside Varela was wild and unforgiving. Kale's lungs burned as he ran, holding Irina's hand tightly. Branches snapped under their feet. Strange birds cried from the trees. Behind them, the city lights faded, but the danger did not. Irina stumbled again, her legs still weak from the drugs. Kale wrapped his arm around her waist and helped her move. They couldn't stop, not yet. The syndicate would already be searching. Breck had promised to meet them at a clearing near the old ruins. That was the plan. But plans meant nothing when the Velen syndicate was angry, and Kale had just humiliated them in their most secure building. A soft wind blew through the trees, carrying the low hum of approaching hoverbikes. "They're coming," Irina whispered, fear in her voice. Kale scanned the darkness and nodded. "We keep moving," he said, "just a little farther." Suddenly, light burst through the trees, bright, blinding, and white. A spotlight from a patrol drone. Kale pulled Irina down behind a rock as the drone passed overhead. Its scanner beams swept the ground slowly, searching for heat signatures. Irina clutched his sleeve. Trembling, "They'll take me back," she whispered. "They always find the runaways." Kale turned to her, his voice calm but firm. "They won't take you, not this time, not while I'm breathing." The drone moved on. Disappearing behind the trees, Kale helped her stand, and they kept going. They reached the old stone ruins just as Breck's small ship uncloaked above the clearing. It hovered low, the hatch open, ready to take them in. But before they could step inside, blaster fire rained down from the sky. Kale grabbed Irina and rolled behind a stone wall as the ship took a hit. Flames sparked from its side, and Breck cursed over the comes, change of plan. Breck shouted, "They're jamming the liftoff zone. Run west, I'll follow from the air." Kale didn't argue. He grabbed Irina again and ran, weaving between ancient ruins and tree roots. Another blaster shot hit nearby, showering them with dirt and debris. A hovercraft touched down behind them and outstepped syndicate soldiers in black armor. One of them shouted, "Return the unit or die." Kale didn't stop. He looked at Irina, her face pale but focused. "Can you run faster?" he asked. She nodded once, then started running beside him, faster than before. Stronger than he'd seen her yet. They dodged between fallen trees, ran through thick vines. Blaster bolts zipped past them, burning the air. Then Kale saw Ida. Small cave up ahead, hidden behind a curtain of moss. He led her inside, pulling the green leaves behind them. Inside, it was cool, dark, and safe for now. Irina collapsed on the stone floor, breathing hard. Kale crouched beside her, wiping blood from a cut on her shoulder. "We can't keep running like this," she whispered. "They'll never stop." Kale touched her face gently. "I'm not giving you back," he said. "I don't care who they send." Her eyes shimmered in the dark. "No one's ever said that for me before," she whispered. "I'm not like them," Kale said. "You're not a thing, Irina. You're someone I." He paused, heart pounding. "I care about you more than I expected." Outside, they heard shouting. Soldiers were near again, scanning the jungle, but something was changing inside Irina. The fear was still there, but now it stood beside courage. She took Kale's hand and held it tight. "I want to live," she said. "Not just survive," Kale nodded. "Then we fight for that." Breck's voice crackled in their comes. I looped back around, 10 minutes till I'm above you again." "Hold tight," Kale replied. "They're closing in, then give M." "Hell," Breck said, and cut the channel. Kale checked his sidearm. 1 charge left. Not enough to hold off a squad. He looked at Irina. She reached into her robe and pulled out a small metal shard. "A hidden blade. I kept it, in case I ever got the chance," she said. He smiled. "You're braver than anyone I've met." Footsteps neared the cave, voices in alien tongues. Called out, Kale stood, shielding Irina, ready to fight, but before he could shoot, Irina stepped forward. "This is my freedom," she shouted. "You won't take it again." The soldiers hesitated. They hadn't expected her to speak. They hadn't expected her to stand. Kale fired 1 shot, taking out the front soldier. Irina threw her blade and hit the second in the neck. The others rushed in, but above, Breck's ship roared back into view. Firing a pulse cannon and scattering the squad, Kale grabbed Irina and ran into the clearing as the ramp lowered. "Breck!" shouted, "Move it." They jumped aboard just as the ship lifted into the air. Irina collapsed in Kale's arms, shaking but alive. He held her close as the jungle disappeared beneath them. For now, they were safe. But the war with the Syndicate had just begun. Breck's ship flew low over the thick jungle. Weaving through dark clouds and broken trees, smoke still rose from the ruined ruins below. Where Kale and Irina had barely escaped, inside the ship, the air smelled of burnt circuits and old fuel. But Kale didn't care. Irina was alive, breathing in his arms. And they were finally out of the Syndicate's hands, for now. Breck cursed as he pulled levers and slammed buttons. "They hit my stabilizer." He growled. "I can't go far. We don't need far," Kale said. Holding Irina tighter. "Just somewhere they can't find us." Breck looked back, his 3 cyber eyes scanning them. "There's an old Earth Alliance outpost," he said, "abandoned decades ago." "Deep in the wildlands, no cities," Breck added. "No people, just trees, fog, and maybe some ghosts." "Perfect," Kale said. "Take us there." The ship groaned as it changed course, dipping through sharp cliffs and narrow valleys. Irina stirred weakly, her voice soft. "Where are we going?" Kale kissed her forehead. "Somewhere safe, somewhere free." She smiled faintly, and then rested again. The outpost was little more than rusted metal and overgrown vines. A few buildings still stood. Half covered in moss and rain, Breck landed. The ship gently beside an old hangar, sparks flying from his console. "That's it for me," he said, stepping out. "If the Syndicate tracks this place, I'm gone." Kale nodded. "Understanding. You've done enough," Kale said. "Thank you." Breck lit a smokestick and waved a lazy goodbye. Then he vanished back into the ship, leaving them alone. Kale carried Irina inside one of the buildings. The roof leaked, but the floor was dry. He set her down on an old mat and covered her. With a blanket from the medkit, she was still too weak to stand, but the color was returning to her face. Kale spent the day fixing the power core. Setting up lights and securing the perimeter, he set traps around the clearing just in case. Then he cooked what little rations they had, nothing fancy, but warm and filling. That night, as the jungle sang outside, Kale sat beside Irina and gently cleaned her wounds. She winced, but didn't pull away. "You shouldn't have come for me," she said, voice low. "I had to," Kale replied, "because when I left that room, I didn't feel right without you. You're not my owner," she whispered. "I never wanted to be," he said. "I just want to be beside you." Her silver eyes locked onto his. "I don't know how to be anything except what they made me," she said. Kale reached out and took her hand. "Then let's learn together," he whispered. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind and the soft crackle of a small fire. Irina leaned her head on his shoulder. For the first time, she felt warmth not just around her, but inside her, and for the first time, Kale felt peace. But peace never lasted long the next day. The sky turned red. A syndicate tracker drone appeared above the trees, scanning with wide blue beams. Kale spotted it too late. He grabbed his rifle and aimed one clean shot, brought the drone down in flames. But it was too late. The signal had been sent. They found us, Kale said. Running back to the outpost, Irina was already up. Leaning against the wall for balance, "I'll fight," she said. "I'm not going back." "You're still healing," Kale said. "I don't care." She replied, fire in her eyes. "I'm not their property anymore." They spent hours preparing Kale loading weapons, Irina setting up distractions. By nightfall, a red glow lit the sky. 3 ships landed outside the jungle. The syndicate was here. Kale kissed Irina's forehead. "If I don't make it, don't say that." She cut him off. "We survived together." The battle came fast. Syndicate soldiers in black armor stormed the outpost, firing plasma bolts through the air. Kale fought like a man with nothing left to lose. Every shot was fired with purpose, every move to protect Irina, but he was only one man. A blast hit his shoulder, spinning him to the ground. Another scorched his leg, and he cried out. The soldiers closed in, but before they could strike, Irina stepped out of the shadows holding a stolen blaster. She screamed, "Get away from him!" and fired. The leader dropped instantly, his helmet shattering. She ran to Kale, dragging him behind cover. "You're hurt," she said, panicked. "I'm still breathing," he said with a weak smile. "You saved me." She whispered, "No." He replied, "You saved me, **." When the smoke cleared, only 2 bodies remained standing. One human, one alien. Both bleeding, both tired, but both free. They collapsed together by the fire that night, Kale's hand in hers, their bodies wrapped in old blankets and fresh wounds. The fire crackled. The stars watched. And in the middle of all the blood and ruin, there was love. Not the love of fairy tales, but the kind built with pain, sacrifice, and fire. The kind that no syndicate could ever chain again. ** The outpost lay quiet, covered in ash and broken steel. The fires had died, but the air still smelled like smoke and plasma. Kale lay on the floor, his shoulder bleeding, his face pale. Irina knelt beside him, hands trembling, voice shaking. "Stay with me," she whispered, pressing cloth to his wound. He gave a small smile. "I'm not going anywhere." But she could see the truth. He was fading. He had given everything to protect her, to free her, and now it might cost him his life. She stood slowly, wiping blood from her face. The remaining syndicate soldiers were still alive, bound and groaning behind a wall. They had surrendered after seeing her fight. But they weren't afraid of her blaster. They were afraid of her. They had whispered a name when she shouted during the battle. A name buried deep in the syndicate's history. Irina Valteri, one of them had muttered, eyes wide with fear. She didn't understand, but they did. They hadn't just taken her years ago. They had hidden her because of who she really was. Irina searched the body of the fallen squad leader. In his chest pocket was a data card, glowing faintly. She activated it. A small hologram appeared, showing her own face. Labeled Target, Valtari Royal Bloodline. Her breath caught in her throat. She wasn't just a slave. She was a princess, stolen. As a child, erased from records, sold into the system. Her very bloodline threatened the Velen Syndicate's power, so they made her disappear. And now she had returned without knowing it, without asking for it. But fate didn't ask permission. She looked back at Kale, who lay unconscious, his chest rising slowly. She had the proof now. If she showed this card to the right people, she could bring the whole syndicate down. But doing that meant coming out of hiding. It meant stepping into a world that never protected her before. It meant leaving Kale maybe forever, to stand as a symbol, a name, a leader, or She could destroy the card, live in the wild with Kale, in peace, forgotten, hidden, free. It was her choice, and for once, no one could take it from her. Hours passed. Kale woke to the sound of her voice humming softly. She was sitting beside him, cleaning his wound with slow, careful hands. "You're alive," she whispered, eyes full of tears, barely. He joked, "You sang terribly." She laughed and kissed his forehead. He tried to sit up, but she pushed him back gently. "Don't move. Your body's broken." "But your eyes," he said, "they're not empty anymore." She nodded. "I found out who I was," she whispered, holding up the data card. Kale stared at it, then at her, and he asked, "I'm a lost princess," she said. "My name is Irina Valteri." He raised an eyebrow. "Royalty suits you," he said, trying to smile through the pain. "But what now?" Irina looked at the sky, at the stars blinking above the trees. "I can destroy the syndicate," she said, "if I go back and show them this, but you'll have to leave." Kale said quietly. She nodded. "They'll take me, protect me, train me. But I won't be with you." Kale looked down, his hands curling into fists. "I didn't fight for a crown," he said. "I fought for you." She touched his hand. "And I didn't survive for a throne," she replied. "I survived for." U.S. silence settled between them. Then she placed the data card on the ground and crushed it beneath her boot. Kale's eyes widened. "You destroyed it," he said, stunned. Irina's voice was steady. "I don't need power to know who I am," she said. "I am not their princess. I am my own. And you are the only king I'll ever need." Kale pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "You chose me," he whispered. "I always would," she replied, tears on her cheeks. "I'm not going to save the galaxy," she said. "I'm going to live, and I'll do it beside the man who gave me my name, my freedom, and my future." The next morning, Breck returned in a new ship, surprised to see the outpost still standing. He glanced at the burnt trees, the broken armor, and Kale's bandaged body. "You two really stirred up the hornet nest," he muttered. Irina helped Kale onto the ship. "We're done running," she said, "but we're not done living." Breck nodded slowly. "Where to now?" he asked. "Anywhere they don't know our names," Kale said, "and everywhere we make new memories," Irina added, smiling as the ship lifted into the sky. Irina stood by the window, her hand resting on Kale's. She had chosen freedom. But more than that, she had chosen love. Not the kind that was easy or perfect, but the kind that was worth fighting for. And in that choice, she had found something greater than royalty. She had found herself. The stars stretched wide above the open sky as the ship glided through deep space. Far behind them, Varela faded into darkness. The fires, the syndicate, the chainsaw left behind. Kale lay on a padded bed inside the small ship, his arm bandaged and healing slowly. His eyes fluttered open as a soft hum played in the background. He wasn't sure if it was the ship's engine or her voice. Either way, it brought peace. Irina stood at the controls, now wearing a simple traveler's cloak. No more collars, no numbers, no titles. She wasn't a slave. She wasn't a princess. She was Irina, the woman who had chosen her own path. She looked back and smiled. "You're awake," she said gently. "Can't sleep while you're flying this thing," Kale joked weakly. "I've only crashed us twice," she said with a smirk. They both laughed, trio laughter, not forced or broken. It was the kind that came from surviving together. "Where are we?" he asked, sitting up slowly. "Somewhere quiet," she replied. "I scanned a moon with forests, fresh air, and no cities. A place to start over." Kale nodded. "Sounds like home." The ship landed softly between trees that swayed like slow dancers. A gentle breeze brushed across the green field as they stepped out for the first time in what felt like forever. There was no fear, no running, no hiding. only peace. Kale breathed deeply, feeling the cold air fill his chest. Irina closed her eyes, letting the wind touch her face. She reached out and took his hand. "Do you remember the first thing you said to me?" she asked. He smiled. "I said I wouldn't touch you." She nodded. "And now I never want you to let go." They walked through the tall grass until they found a clear space by a stream. Together they built a shelter, small and simple. No golden walls, no guards, no silk sheets, just a roof, warmth, and each other. Days passed, and their bodies healed. Kale taught Irina how to cook using earth recipes. She showed him how to read the stars using her people's ancient sky language. They told stories by firelight, not of pain, but of dreams. Every sunrise felt like a gift. Every touch carried meaning. One night, while the sky shimmered with silver light, Irina placed a small crystal in Kale's hand. It glowed faintly with her energy. "In my culture," she said softly, "we give this to the one we choose to bond with forever." Kale looked at it, then at her. "I never thought forever could feel this real," Kay said. She touched his cheek. "You paid for one night," she whispered, "but you gave me your whole life." "And I'll keep giving it," Kale replied. "Until my last breath." He pulled out a small ring he had carved from a piece of their ship's wreckage. It was rough, but honest. He slipped it onto her finger, and she laughed through tears. "I guess that makes it official," she said. He smiled. "No more chains, no more titles, just us," she whispered. Years later, people would speak of a mysterious couple living beyond the edges of star maps. Some said the man was a soldier hiding from his past. Others whispered that the woman was royalty, a lost heir who turned her back on a throne, but no one could ever confirm the tale because the two never returned to the cities, never sent signals, never asked for attention. They had each other, and that was more than enough. One morning, Irina stood at the stream, brushing her fingers through the cool water. A small girl with silver eyes ran toward her, giggling. "Mama," she shouted. "Papa says breakfast is ready." Irina turned and smiled. Picking up her daughter, "Let's not keep him waiting," she said. Inside the cabin, Kale stood by the fire pit, flipping something on the old pan. He looked older now, scarred but strong, when he saw them. His face lit up with the same smile he had the night she first sat beside him and dared to dream. His arms opened and Irina walked into them with their child laughing between them. This moment was the future neither of them believed they could have. A life not bought, not stolen, not forced, but earned. A life born from one quiet promise, one brave escape, one broken girl, and one human who refused to treat her like anything less than his equal. She had once been known only as Lot 47. He had once thought it was just one night, but love does not count in hours or credits. It counts in sacrifices, in trust, in fire, in hope, and in the choice to stay every single day, forever.